Good evening. We'll call this meeting of the USD253 Board of Education to order. We have 7 board members present. I would take a motion to adopt the agenda this evening, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Jamie's having trouble, but she's got her hand up. Okay. We'll blame it on the rain. Hand vote.
Motion
There we go.
passes 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, and we have some very eager students. It looks like we can't wait to hear from you. Our program highlight this evening is from Village Elementary. Come on down.
Yes, and we have Brandy Mitchell, Principal of Village Elementary, to introduce.
Thank you all for having us here tonight. Our students are very, very excited to be here, and we have some staff that have joined us as well, so thank you for having us. I do want to make sure that I introduce Chelsea Evans, who is our technology coach. She has been instrumental in helping with our Eagle leaders and Eaglets who are here to share a little bit about Village tonight. So here we go.
Hello, USD253 board members. Thank you for having us here today to speak about Village Elementary. We are all Eagle leaders, which means that we are nominated to participate in school-wide leadership opportunities. First, we would like to introduce ourselves, and then we will share a poem written about Village to highlight some of our favorite parts of our school. Hi, my name is Cruz, and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, my name is Abbott and I'm in kindergarten.
Hi, my name is Elizar and I'm in 2nd grade.
Hi, my name is Coda, and I'm in 2nd grade.
Hi, my name is Annika and I'm in 1st grade.
Hi, my name is Aiden, and I'm in 2nd grade.
Hi, my name is Dax and I'm in 1st grade.
Hi, my name is Carolina and I'm in 3rd grade.
Hi, my name is Damien and I'm in 3rd grade.
Hi, my name is Aaliyah and I'm in 1st grade.
Hi, my name is Danila, I'm in 3rd grade.
Hi, my name is Hudson. I'm in 4th grade. Hi, my name is Tadrian, and I'm in 5th grade.
Hi, my name is Dula and I'm in 4th grade.
You say it takes a village. You say it takes a village. This is something we know to be true. Because we are being taught by people who know a thing or two.
If you are looking for someone to read, Mrs. Dial is your gal. She knows the ins and outs of the library, and a good book is always your pal.
Shreen covers all the bases, and Miss Lord has lots of tricks up her sleeve. Our time with her is not long enough. We never want to leave. Boomwalkers, drums, and recorders and music. You will hear throughout the building those tone rings in everyone's ears. Mr. Esau's music programs are the best. The reviews of our families top all the rest.
PE is a building of paper, and Mr. Battenfield is the reason why. He is a master teacher, and we're pretty sure he can do anything well except baby fly. We have teachers who help us learn our feelings together. That's the loft you must know. That we can go there to calm down or take a break, just not forever. Miss Meyer and Miss Carson help our hearts grow.
The janitors keep our building clean. Food service keeps our tummies full. They work together as a team and are so important to our school. Keeping the building running is the admin, office staff, and coaches' creed. We have aides and prayers who are there for us to help in times of need.
We don't have time to list them all, but our Special education, flex, and classroom teachers work hard every day. They set high expectations and make us feel at home while still giving us time at recess to play. They teach us math and literacy, but that's only the beginning. They capture our hearts, grow our brains, and open our minds. They can never get enough credit for all the work they are doing.
You see all these things we have talked about would be great enough, but at Village, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So we are going to highlight a lot more great stuff.
One more thing that fills us with glee is Eagle time with our special village family. Each time we meet, we grow a little closer and we never want Eagle time to be over. We have played games and made crafts. We have even spent time just talking to each other. No, it's not entirely the thing of the past. Our latest Equal Time project we are proud to share with you is a mural hanging in our lunchroom that we can look at while we enjoy our food. Everyone in our building is up on that wall because Village is a place for everyone, big or small.
Thanks to some generous support, we have a podcast. We would love to report. If you visit the website, you will find interviews to listen to that will broaden your mind from a variety of perspectives and much wisdom we have gleaned. We have heard from students, staff, and community members. It's more interesting than we could have dreamed.
Starting off the day with positivity helps everyone go the extra mile. One of our Eagle Leader responsibilities is morning greetings with handshakes and smiles. Reading CKH surveys has been our latest task. How are we to know what others like if we never take time to ask? It's taking a while to see what all they wrote. Of course, we can't change everything, but at Village, even students have a vote.
3 times a year, we spend all day on stream. Each day, the busy and special. We'll change it Earth, hour, and variety shows our theme. So far this year, we only had one, where we learn about leaders in each stream field. You will be impressed if you know what they have done. We'd just love for you to come by on our next stream day to see just how fun really can be.
Things were a little crazy because of COVID, which is clear. For too long, big crowds were a no-no. But the doors are open, and we started having assemblies this year. At our first assembly, we all thought Miss Mitchell forgot. But actually, she was there all along, disguised as our eagle mascot. The roar of the crowd was unbelievable when she did the big reveal. Even though many of us had never been to one, assemblies now have great appeal.
Village is old, it might be considered an antique. However, thanks to the construction updates, things are starting to look really chic. They have moved our library and they have squished our hall, but these things do not make us worry, because in the new gym, we will have a ball.
At Village, we are taught. At Village, we are praised. At Village, we are challenged. At Village, we are prepared for our future days. One day I will be an eaglet, no more, but I know my time at Village has prepared me to fly like an eagle and soar.
Thank you. We are happy to answer any questions and we hope you enjoyed hearing about Village.
Well, that was amazing. Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask or say? I mean, I don't know how our reading scores are not like off the charts after witnessing that, because that was amazing. That was amazing. Yes. Yes. Anybody have anything? No? Just other than good job? Yeah. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Good job, Village.
Thank you, and way to go, Village students. Awesome job.
Okay, well, that was, like I said, absolutely adorable. Thank you so much while I wipe my tears away here. Okay, that takes us to item 3B. Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'll just talk about public comment while they're moving. Okay, you mind? Yeah. Public comments will be allowed with a duration of 3 minutes per speaker to be timed by the board clerk, and speakers must sign up for in-person public comment by 1 p.m. the day of the board meeting. That public comment by email or remote not be accepted, and that those giving public comment not approach the board or move past the podium. No handouts will be allowed, but such materials may be emailed in advance to the board clerk for distribution to the board. And that public comment may not include reference to names of specific students and/or personnel matters, which would potentially violate an individual's privacy. Casey, did we have anyone sign up for public comment this week?
We do not have any tonight.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to item 4A, executive session.
Madam President, I move to go into executive session for 20 minutes for the exception for matters which could be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship under Kansas Open Meeting Act, and that we return to open session in this room at 7:03 p.m. Superintendent Dr. Allison Harder and Attorney Tammy Samoji are invited to join the board for this session. No action is anticipated.
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Having issues, I vote yay.
Glad it wasn't just me.
Motion passes 7-0.
I move we return to regular session.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Okay. Before we move to the consent agenda, I wanted to take a moment to recognize that it is National School Counseling Week, and we want to say thank you to all of our school counselors and student support specialists. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank everyone for the board appreciation gifts that we got in February or January, sorry. Just the thank you cards, the emails, all the kind words. We're very, very thankful, and just thank you. That's all I had to say about that. So thank you very much for that. Okay, the consent agenda. The items listed on the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Education to be routine business items. Approval of the items may be made by a single motion, second, and majority vote, with no separate discussion of any item listed. Should a member of the board desire to discuss any item, at his or her request, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. What are the wishes of the board?
I would move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And item 7A, right? Did I skip? No, 7A, 2022-2023 Logan Avenue Elementary School Improvement Update.
We have Mrs. Vanessa Hines, principal at Logan Avenue, and team that she will introduce when she comes to the podium.
Good evening. I'm Vanessa Hines, principal of Logan Avenue Elementary. I have with me this evening members of my building leadership team, and they'll introduce themselves as they come up. We are going to talk about our school improvement goals that we came to through a root cause analysis. We'll talk about that for a little bit. Some challenges we have encountered. We're going to look at some data, talk about some SEL things, and things that we hope to accomplish in the future.
Hi, Jen Sandoval.
I'm Emily Joplin.
We completed a foundational needs assessment for continuous school improvement to target the problems and not just the symptoms.
The root cause analysis process led us through collecting data, identifying a problem, verifying possible root causes, and next steps.
As part of this process, we learned that our school has a need in the area of early literacy skills, particularly in the K-1 levels.
The team is working through steps to address this issue and move into an additional analysis of our math data.
I'm actually slide 4. No, the other way. Sorry, they just did slide 3. Okay, thank you. I'm Mallory again. And this year we have set 3 goals based on data gathered during BLT and our data talks. For literacy, we are looking to increase students' scoring at or above benchmark on the reading assessment by 15%. For math, we are similarly wanting to increase students' scoring at or above benchmark on the A math assessment by 20%. For SEL, we are looking at decreasing our amount of office calls by 10% from the previous school year, 21-22. For all of these goals, our action steps include using new curriculum programs, digging deeper through our data, through data talks, to address gaps and needs across the building, using the data to form fluid groups based on students' needs, and making Tier 1 SEL instruction a part of our everyday schedules through the Second Step program. These strategies are not just one-and-done pieces, but we are hoping to build upon them year after year.
I'm Lisa Wecker. Some of the challenges that we have had to face or overcome at Logan have been obviously the challenge of the pandemic, not just affecting students academically, but also on the social level, trying to reteach some of those social fundamentals, SEL skills that they have lost during that pandemic time. Another big challenge that we had this year was the construction piece. Started off having a little bit of safety issues with that, but then as they kept going, we've created some pretty awesome rooms. I don't know if you've come to Logan Avenue to see them, but we're pretty proud of those. All the teachers moved except for 3 teachers during the middle of the year, so that created a challenge with teaching new expectations, setting up new classrooms. There is also a new multipurpose room that was built that is used as a lunchroom. None of our students at Logan Avenue have ever eaten lunch in a lunchroom, so we got to teach the expectations of that, rescheduling, setting up, and readjusting for the lunch time. Academics was a big challenge to overcome, as you'll hear later. By reducing our coach to halftime and by going down to just one strategist, it put a lot more onto the teachers' plates. They're taking over some of the tier 2, tier 3 groups. That has also caused a shortage or an adjustment in some of the resources that had to be used because we did not have enough resources for everyone to use at that time. And then Logan Avenue has also gone through a lot of staffing changes over the last few years. And those are some of our challenges.
Hello, my name is Lauren Ayers. Logan's Data Talks have been revamped and restructured this year. So one of the things that we did was we added more time for Data Talks. We also implemented data spreadsheets for each grade level. And what that allowed was more teacher input. They were able to be a part of those conversations, and we were able to dig deeper into the data and analyze where our greatest needs are. It's helped improve our understanding. It's allowed the teachers to have a deeper understanding, and it's allowed us all to drive our instruction to where student needs are. Each grade level's data sheet has district assessments like FastBridge, so it shows individual growth, it shows class average, it shows growth from fall to winter in percentiles, as well as diagnostics and progress monitoring data, and that again allows us to go deeper, and then that's what we use to make our tiered groups for intervention time, which Lisa was referring to during Flex. We've identified goals and benchmarks, which was important because it gives us those goals to work towards, but it also flags students so that it shows us the need for instruction. And then our data talks rotate between instructional needs, so that might look like reviewing stations or how to progress monitor or looking at the resources that we're talking about, to regrouping, looking at student data, what progress they're making, and if they're in the appropriate group that they should be in. Oops. You can go to the next slide. So here is our building-wide FastBridge data. It shows you, it's our A reading scores, which is a part of one of our school improvement goals. It shows the data from the fall to the winter. So you could see we have the tier triangles. Tier 1 reflects students that hit the benchmark in the fall. Tier 2 would be flagged as some risk, and Tier 3 would be flagged as high risk. You can see the chart above that shows the numbers of where the percentages came from and how many students scored in each category. And then one of the things that we would look at is looking at how it's changed, how the tiers change, because we want the most in Tier 1. And you can see that our Tier 3 percentages went down 2%, but our Tier 1 percentages dropped as well. So this kind of thing allows us to look at the student need, but those data spreadsheets also give us the individual student data. So even though this tier triangle shows you building wide, it doesn't show you everything. If you look at the student growth that students have been making in their individual spreadsheets, you would see a lot more and a difference, but that these triangles don't show. So for example, when you go from fall to winter, the benchmark doesn't stay the same. In third grade, it increases by 8 points. So there was a little third grader that increased their score from fall to winter by 16 points, which is above the growth of the expected benchmark. However, that student flagged in some risk, so that tier 2 category, and they did not make enough growth to get out of that tier 2. So you wouldn't have seen a change with that student. However, 16 points of growth is something to celebrate. So this gives us an idea, but also those individual grade level spreadsheets give us an idea as well. The A math is very similar. It shows fall to winter for A math, and that is also an area for school improvement goal. However, this is not as consistent as the prior, because if you see in the fall, 1st through 5th grade take it, and then in the winter, kindergarten through 5th grade take it. So it's an additional 43 students that are added to our percentages. However, it's still laid out in the same as the previous slide. You have your tier 1s that are hitting benchmark. Tier 2 are some risk, tier 3 are high risk. Again, you have the chart above that shows you where those percentages came from. And once again, it's not showing the individual growth that we can see or where the individual need comes from that our grade level data sheets go. So in 2nd grade for A math, the increase is 4 points. We had a little 2nd grader make 16 points gain in A math as well. So much more than a 4-point goal, right? However, they flagged high risk, which would be tier 3. They did not gain enough to get into tier 2. So the data we have to look at in multiple ways so that we can use that to guide our instruction, to guide our conversations, to dig deeper into data analysis and see where we go from there. All of this kind of is where we've been moving with data talks and the changes with it. We've been using this data to analyze it during root cause analysis. We've been using it in our school improvement discussions and our data talks and our district data talks as well as grade level data talks.
Hi, I'm Jane Crone,
I'm Sarah Barber.
Student Support Specialist.
Same.
Apparently this is our week. So, having 2 counselors has been beneficial, specifically with one of the counselors being a former teacher. That individual has the educational background to more easily identify students for needs. They understand better exactly what happens in the classroom on, a moment-to-moment basis. And they tend to speak the language more of teachers rather than from the counseling side. The teachers are using Second Step in the classroom as their tier 1 instruction. They teach one lesson each week from the Second Step curriculum, and then they supplement with other activities like classroom meetings or class team building activities or different kinds of things that the teacher decides are important for their particular class. All of the schools this year are using the same forms and the documentation processes. And this has allowed for easier data compilation, and it also makes it easier when we have students transfer from one building to another. So then the data stays the same and the forms are the same, so it's more easily understood.
One challenge that was mentioned earlier during construction is that we at Logan Avenue didn't have a comm room at the time, and so we had to do a lot of improvising for making safety spaces within the classroom and even outside of the classroom. So we used a lot of mats to keep students safe during a crisis situation if we weren't able to get them out of the classroom. After construction was finished, we did have space available for a comm room, so we have that now. We have SEL online classroom for K2. There's a picture there. That's an example of it. It is linked to the Second Step pacing guide, so it stays on track for those teachers. So if they're needing supplemental things for those other days that they're not teaching their Second Step lesson, they can utilize that. It has different books and videos that is themed, different games that the teacher can lead or that the students can do individually on their Chromebooks. So it can be used a lot of different ways.
Hi, I'm Emily Rudzik, and I'm going to be talking about some of the future steps that we will be taking at Logan Avenue. After finishing our root cause analysis, we will be presenting it to the rest of our staff later this month. We will be implementing whole staff data conversations. And in the future, we do look at completing a root cause analysis for math, just like we did for reading. Completing a math book study based on fluency. And when it comes to our math curriculum, really making sure that we are teaching Envision with fidelity, implementing the solve and share portion of the lesson so that we are teaching kids, or so that we are challenging kids. And then also using the I do, we do, and you do teaching approach to guide students to working independently. We will also continue to create and work with small groups based on all of the data that Lauren talked about earlier. And then looking at data to make sure that students are moving to the next grade level, knowing that they have mastered current grade-specific skills and standards before moving on. Thank you for listening, and do you guys have any questions?
What questions do we have this evening? Thank you for that.
Well, you mentioned, or somebody mentioned not having enough district-approved resources. Could you give a little context on that?
So, yeah, I'm the strategist, K-5 strategist at Logan Avenue School. And so I currently teach Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. Some of the classroom teachers have had to take on that responsibility. So we're using the same, it is a district-approved program, but there's not enough teacher resources, teacher manuals. And so we've had to borrow from other schools or look through surplus to find just the teacher manuals. Because, for instance, I'm using level 1 EIR. There's also a first grade teacher, a third grade teacher, and there's one other teacher that are using the same kit. The kids might be at different levels in that program, but we still all need that same book. So just finding that book through the district, and we have been able to do that, but it's just one of the obstacles that we weren't prepared for when we kind of took on that role, so.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to comment, when you talk about the data talks, I think it's really important that context you gave about the growth of those students, and that just because they're in Tier 3 doesn't mean they're making amazing growth. It's just how we rank them, and it's sort of, to me, it's a baseline, and it's a place to start working with our kids. And again, I appreciate that. I was just talking to legislators in Topeka about that same principle, about how we have to look at the individual growth for our students and judge them by that, not by what a piece of paper says that where they're at in that ranking. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I don't have a question. I have a comment, because I really just want to acknowledge and thank you for your honesty in talking about the challenges of the school year. I just want you to know that we hear it, we know it, and just thank you for showing up every day, doing your job so well, and taking care of our kids. We hope that we can overcome these challenges and know that we're all working with you.
Thank you. I also wanted to just acknowledge the celebration of those small wins. Each student succeeding is amazing. And I'm so glad that they don't read the kind of stuff that we read in the news, because then they would probably never feel good or proud of themselves. So those are things to be celebrated. And I'm also, I think your SEL gamification sounds really cool too. I know that's the big thing. Everybody wants games, right? Whether it's online or in person, they want the games. So I thought that was really cool. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to ask or add?
I was just going to add, I'm a Logan Lion.
Yes, so thank you so much. Thank you very much for being here tonight and all your hard work. Yes, thank you. Item 7B, Capturing Kids' Hearts Proposed Training for 2023-2024.
Okay, Mrs. Judy Stanley, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching, Learning, and Student Services, here to outline Capturing Kids' Hearts, and Mrs. Glades and Dr. Cardula.
This evening, we are bringing you a proposal for professional development for next year for Capturing Kids' Hearts that allows us to expand it. We're able to do that because of ESSER 3 funds. We'll get a little bit more into that, but our team would like to give you this proposal for consideration so that we can take it beyond just our elementary schools and middle school.
Good evening. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what CKH is and why we want to use it. CKH is a core one or tier one structure. It allows us to develop several things within our students and our teachers. It develops that relational capacity. It improves school culture. It works to strengthen trust between teachers and students. It builds self-managing skills in classrooms. It creates accountability, and it fosters trauma-informed care. The nice thing about this proposal that I think you need to understand is that this proposal is going to allow us to bring CKH to the whole district. Pre-K, K-5, 6-8, and the high school. So we're having a unifying language across all of our schools. Sorry about that. That's right, I was off the hook. Okay, so our timeline, you think of CKH, you got to understand we've been using this for a long time. It started in 2013 with the Leadership Blueprint, and then we brought it to the middle school that same year in 2013-14. And then the elementary's got it in 16-17. So what this is going to do is this is going to bring pre-K on board. It's going to bring the high school on board with CKH and also Coaching Greatness. And it's also going to do a reboot or a recharge for our K-5. And I think they'll talk more about that. But that's basically just, if you see the elementaries are trained in 16-17, the recharge is going to help them refocus and bring some of that back. So everybody's on the same page.
Now, you might be wondering, well, why are you bringing this to us right now? And a big part of that is because we have seen some learning loss with the social emotional as we came back from the pandemic. And that ties into the ability to use ESSER 3 for this. Capturing Kids' Hearts is incredibly expensive training. It's incredibly valuable training, but it is also incredibly expensive. And we hadn't really thought about it too much, but we have, as you know, a K-TOY regional recognition. And Erica Huggard has had the opportunity to participate in a lot of different activities this year. And one of those was CKH training. And she went to that and came back and said, wait a minute, why aren't we doing this at the high school level? Can we look at ESSER 3? Is this something that we have that's an option for us? And we thought, well, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's look at it. And Joy McGee with the preschool is like, hey, wait a minute. Can we look at pre-K as well? Let's just do this. Let's make sure everybody has the same language. And so we did. We dug in. We reached out to see the Capturing Kids' Hearts representatives to see how much it would cost us. And essentially, this proposal allows us to continue our training with the new teachers. That is something that we have continued to do every summer. Every new teacher participates in CKH training. It would also allow us to do that recharge that Dr. Cardula talked about. So essentially, each of the elementary schools will get a half-day training, and Emporium Middle School, half their staff will have it in the morning, half in the afternoon. And just like he said, it's just rebooting, coming back and revisiting those core principles for Capturing Kids' Hearts. We know, principals know, that we've kind of stepped away from that a little bit. COVID happened, the pandemic happened, we had remote instruction, and it was a little bit more difficult to keep it going. So we want to give that little reboost to everyone. Can you go to the next slide, Rob? And then we want to add the preschool. They don't have a preschool specific training, but what they will do is provide us with an elementary trainer, an early elementary trainer, who will make adaptations for the preschool. And then also the high school. The high school training will look a little bit different. Half of their staff, you get about 50 teachers in each group. That's what it cost. Half of the staff will go through traditional Capturing Kids' Hearts training. The other half will go through Coaching Greatness. It's still Capturing Kids' Hearts, but they adapt it so that they start talking about how do you use it with coaching teams, football, basketball, student organizations, sponsors. So they extend the Capturing Kids' Hearts training with that. Both of those schools will also receive Process Champions training. You know that Village is a Capturing Kids' Hearts National Showcase school, and we're hoping to be a nominee again. That training is really the training that sparked that desire and that passion to become a National Showcase school. So it's a follow-up training that they would get in September. And then they would also get a walkthrough day. So the next day, coaches from Capturing Kids Heart come and they walk through and they see how things are going and they give feedback. And then the traction pack allows that to continue to happen throughout the year.
Like a bull in a china closet here. Okay, so this is where it all comes together. This amazing training that we've been talking about, having that common language among all of our age groups and all of our buildings. This is where the money is needed. So the total at the bottom, as you can see, there is $182,750. We're so fortunate to have ESSER 3 funds that we could potentially use for this because we can tie this directly to that COVID learning loss for social emotional learning. So you can see the breakdown there. We can use our Title II-A funds in a similar way as we would use it every year for that new teacher training. So that's a portion there, the 22.9. And then the ESSER 3 there underneath, we show how what the breakdown for those individual trainings would be. Judy had mentioned the Jones, bringing Jones on board, and then having those multiple different types of trainings, the coaching greatness, process champions, that traction pack, and then the recharge, and the CKH premium, which are those digital those digital licenses for us. So that total there is $182,750, and that is what we're seeking your input on. So what questions might the board have at this time?
What questions do we have tonight?
I do have one question, just more for clarity. We heard second step message or mentioned before, and so how does Capturing Kids Heart and second step differ? Or is it the same thing or no?
It is different. So Capturing Kids' Hearts is a process. It's really about building that relationship. It's the greeting the students. How do you, it's working through challenges. It's teaching kids how to be self-managers of the classroom and of their behaviors. Second Step is a curriculum program. So it directly, let's say students are having difficulties with bullying. It's a curriculum program to address bullying specific. There are lessons designed for the teachers. So really the Second Step supports Capturing Kids' Hearts.
Perfect. And I would just say that I know at the Kansas Association of School Board Convention that I did attend a couple sessions where it's a pre-K to 12 program and just really great things that they're doing in those schools. So I'm excited for this for us.
With the proposal here, that would all be expended during the next budget year, right? From 23, 24. Yeah.
Yes. So the Title II-A, we have to use Title II-A for the new teacher training because we've done that in the past. So we can't supplant that. So that's why that's separate. But then the ESSER 3 that will all be expended in the 23-24. Is that what next year is? It is. The 23-24 school year, yes.
Yeah, it's still early enough in the year that you're going to write all your checks wrong for like another month or two. With respect to how ESSERS pays this, do we pay the cost up front, then they reimburse us? How does that work?
Mr. Scheib?
Yes, we have to pay for it and then draw it down.
Okay.
It's a federal fund.
Right. Okay.
We will, so just a catch-22 is we will have to submit an amendment to our application for ESSER 3 because this wasn't included in the original application. We can use it for learning loss, but just so you know, we can link it to our survey and our data collection that we did with all the groups because that was one thing that kept coming up, but we will have to submit an amendment for that.
Well, I love the idea of having something consistent pre-K through 12. You know, I hope that we're still doing this. You know, if a kid starts next year at Jones and then finishes with us for high school. But in the meantime, at least we can meet the needs of kids who are getting that kind of experience in the elementary level and at the middle school, and then when they go to the high school. I just think that that's a really hard time in a lot of people's lives, and I think it would be wonderful for us to have that continue on. I just love the idea of consistent language and mindsets and processes, and I think that that's really important for us.
I think the nice thing too is you can think about what the projected costs are going to be. We know $22,900 around there for the new teacher training. And so if we can use the ESSER 3 fund to get everybody trained, then you're really just looking at maintaining it through the new teacher training. If down the road we want to do a recharge, it's about $6,500 to $7,000 a building, but you don't have to do that every year. The one thing that Village has done is they've used their process champions to maintain that. That's what their goal is, to do that professional development. The SSS has built that again this fall, so we can work those pieces in, but you can see what projected charges will be.
Anything else? Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, this is an action item.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. You guys have done some good work with this proposal. I think it's going to do a lot of good. It'll be a great investment, so I'm going to move to approve Capturing Kids' Hearts training for the 23 to 24 school year.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7C, responding to survey and informal input on 2024-2025 academic calendar.
Okay. So this presentation is designed to provide a neutral foundation of information about the topic of a 4-day school week, 5-day work week. This topic first came up through feedback on the Teaching and Learning Annual Calendar Priority Survey for the 2024 academic year. You'll hear more about the priority survey in a presentation. Our goal tonight is to outline the concept of a 4-day school week, 5-day work week, and share information we've been able to gather during our brief time to research this topic. You will hear several pieces brought up multiple times to make sure that we are really clear on our presentation. When we first discussed sharing information during a Board of Education meeting, we considered examining the concept through a study session. It became clear through more conversation and feedback that we needed to first begin with a board presentation to share what that concept could involve for Emporia Public Schools. Our first priority is to our students in ensuring consistency in care, supervision, and education. So if the district ever moved in this direction, we would need to offer educational opportunities on that 5th day for the benefit of our students and not to put a financial burden on our parents, as well as offer transportation and food service. Other important considerations include our negotiated agreement and classified staff members' hours so they could continue to have the same or additional hours for their wages.
Okay, so this all got started with our calendar survey we did a couple months ago. One of the roles of the Professional Development Council, or PDC, is to review those calendar survey results. And when we reviewed the results, we had 24 staff members who had mentioned a 4-day school week of some kind, either a work week or a 4-day academic week. And we had 8 community members mention a shortened, like a 4-day work week. So as a result of PDC, we heard more from the district leadership team, DLT, and also from our central office NEA meetings. So it kind of blew up from that point, and there's a lot of interest in it. We had some information from the thought box show up as well. And then we just had lots of other feedback, and we felt like it's time to take a look at it a little bit deeper.
So one thing after we gathered that calendar survey input, and we noticed we've always, in all the surveys that we've done, we've had mention of a 4-day week. But we had a little bit more this time, and then we had that feedback coming through ThoughtBox. And so we thought, well, let's just reach out to some groups. Like Dr. Cardula said, we talked to Coney, we talked to leadership, and some initial information that came from those groups, things to think about. The first one was recruitment and retention, using this as a strategy for recruitment and retention, and that was really why it was appealing to some of them. We know that there is a teacher shortage. We are experiencing that. And it's not a teacher shortage that is unique to Emporia. It is a teacher shortage across the nation. And so the idea of using it as a strategy for recruitment and retention is, how can we make ourselves more appealing than other school districts? But along with that came concern about childcare needs of our families. We know we cannot put burden back on our families. So if we were going to go to a 4-day week, what are we going to do on that 5th day for our families? That's something we would have to look at. That's something that we have to consider, because we cannot do it to take care of us if it causes a burden for our families. The other piece to look at are calendar considerations. If we go down to a 4-day week, those days have to go somewhere. That 5th day has to go somewhere. It doesn't disappear. We still have to meet state statutes. We still have negotiated agreement hours that we have to meet. So does that mean we have additional days and we go all the way through the month of June? What does that look like? Do we attend to that through a start and end time? We definitely would want to look at start and end times. So we would extend our day some. How long? Is it another hour? Is it another 45 minutes? But we would end up having to do that, or we probably would be going all the way to July. So we're not sure that we want to build a calendar like that. So that's another thing that we have to look at. There's concern about that. There's also student achievement data. We know, you know this, we've presented to you our academic data. How does a 4-day week affect student achievement? That's something that we need to look into. We need to research. We need to find out about. Another thing that came out of that conversation, those informal conversations, was the use of that 5th day. Well, could we use that 5th day as an additional opportunity for, let's say, secondary? It's a day to come in for tutoring. It's a day to come in for extended learning. You have missing assignments. You're missing a test. It's a day we could use that for that advantage. If we have elementary kids in school, can use that to extend the academics. It's another day. You had all your full day learning those other 4 days, but what other activities can we provide on that 5th day? Is it an opportunity for high school students that are working in student organizations to have some volunteer work and go into the elementary school? So a lot of options came up to it's just not a 5th day and it's off. How can we take advantage of that? The other piece that came up was financial considerations. We are not looking at this as a cost savings, and you should know that most school districts that have gone to a 4-day, that's why they went to it. We are not looking at it as a cost savings. In fact, it may cost us money to do a 4-day week because we don't want our classified staff to lose time. We must find something for our children to do, to be in school, be somewhere, so it's not a daycare issue, primarily at the elementary. So we would need classified staff. We would need to have staff on that 5th day. We would need to look at meals and transportation. So this would not be a financial savings for our district. And then the other thing that came up was the idea that we just transition from trimester to semester, so have we given that enough time to have an impact on student data?
So what does the research say? We are always looking for ways to improve our practices, recruit more staff, and address other areas for growth. It is easy to search and find an article on virtually any topic on education and find support or criticism about different strategies. This is where we need to be cautious about, as an educational organization that has high expectations for our students, staff, and administrators with an urgent need to improve. We've talked about that a lot. Before we make changes to impact student learning, we need to do true research. When we present recommendations for new resources, we reference research and evidence-based outcomes. True research is defined as professional, academic articles that are reviewed and approved by peers who are experts in their field. Through the process of researching a topic, we also need to take into account considerations of various perspectives, the positives, the negatives, as well as the neutral effects. We are committed to making data-driven decisions, so we need to review research that includes similar factors as are Emporia Public Schools, such as free and reduced lunches, community and school demographics, academic achievement, among others.
Can you go back? Thank you. So along with that research, that we wanted to talk about what are factors to consider a 4-day school week, and then Mrs. Glade's going to talk about factors to stay with a 5-day school week, so we can see both sides. We wanted to share with you what other districts, the reasons they've gone to a 4-day week in our initial research. Mind you, we've not had a lot of time to do that, but initially what we found, cost savings, again, that's not what we are looking at. Attendance, some districts felt that maybe they could get kids to come more if they only had to come 4 days versus 5. In some districts, they went to a 4-day week because it actually matched the parent work week better. I don't know where those communities are, but that's what they found. As a retention and recruitment tool for teachers. And if you are a small school district, if you are out, let's say in Western Kansas, you will find that many of the students are on the bus for an hour to an hour and a half at times, one way. So if you're on the bus for an hour and a half, it's really 3 hours on that day. So a lot of districts may have looked at it or decided to go that route to have students on a long bus route only 4 days of the week versus 5. For us in Emporia, what's going to make it a little bit tricky in finding that research is that those reasons are not the reasons we are we would even want to consider it because it's not cost savings. We would want to find research that supports the use of that 5th day, which is not something that most school districts have done. How have they used that 5th day? How has it benefited staff? How has it benefited students? We would want to find research on that attendance piece. Are kids coming more? The one advantage would be if, let's say, example, Friday would be that 5th day that we don't have kids in session. Well, you know that high school students often have to leave early for athletic events. They wouldn't be missing classes if we didn't have school in session that day. That also goes down to trickles down to the elementary level because there are lots of little siblings that get taken out of school early so they can go to their big siblings' activities. So it's an advantage to attendance, possibly. The recruitment and retention. As I mentioned, that's a reason that other districts went to it. So we could do some research to see if that actually did help that recruitment and retention piece. You should know that, I'm not sure if you know or not, but Independence, Missouri School District is going to a 4-day weekend. That really sparked a lot of this conversation with some of our teachers because what they saw is a 300% increase in their applications. So that was very interesting when you're talking about a teacher shortage. The EHS student opportunities, is that really something that we could do? And then another potential advantage is unanticipated non-school days. And what we're referring to is inclement weather, snow day, fog, whatever that might be. Rather than tagging those to the end of the year, what we know is that 5th day, that whatever, whether it be a Monday or a Friday, wherever it's at, our negotiated agreement would not have staff working on all of those 5th days, certified staff working on all of those days. We simply don't have enough hours to fill up 30 Fridays. So if we have an inclement weather day, rather than tagging it to the end of the calendar, we could use one of those Fridays where staff weren't scheduled to work. We would make up class on that day.
All right, thank you, Rob. So just kind of the flip side of what Mrs. Stanley talked about, these are the initial factors or reasons that we thought, let's stay at a 5-day school week. So we just, this year, are transitioning from our trimesters to our semesters. So, keeping that transition and not adding another transition for our considering our staff and our students, not having them make an additional transition by going to that 4-day school week. The perception of our legislators and our community members. We don't really truly know what their perceptions of a decision to move to a 4-day school week. We don't know what that perception would be, so we need to be mindful of that as well. Our current academic achievement levels. We've talked about this and we've presented where we're at. We're making that a priority. We've acquired math resources and we're in the process of acquiring ELA resources. So what types of effects would that have on our academic achievement? So that was something that was an initial thought. The length of our school day and calendar, Mrs. Stanley talked about, there are going to be some changes. I think Dr. Harder talked about it as well. If we were to do this, we would see increase in the length of our days, increase in our calendar days. We might be going into the month of June. We don't know what that looks like because we haven't dug down deep and really researched it, but that is an initial thought. And then our ability to offer an option for students on that 5th day. We don't want to cause additional childcare issues for our families. We know that that's a hot topic right now and one that we've been working on as a district, and we know that that's a community issue as well. So we don't want to add to that problem. So those are the reasons that we came up with for staying with the 5-day school week.
Okay, a few additional considerations would be, we already have an approved 23-24 calendar, and there's a lot of work going on right now, particularly at the middle school and high school, planning for next year. Some other things we want to consider is when we develop our calendars, and we develop our calendar a year out. So right now we're working on our 24-25 calendar. So as part of our calendar survey, we develop calendar priorities, and we end up with like 12 of them. So a couple of them, one of our current priorities is school should end before Memorial Day, and school should begin as close to Labor Day as possible. So we're going to need to revisit some of those. And then the last thing is, actually 2 more, is that the state statute on school term, we're required to go 1116 hours. And then our master agreement requires 1125 hours. So those are the 2 things that bound the number of hours we are required to go to school. Then the last thing is, we need time to research. You've heard that several times tonight. It's going to take a little bit of time to go through the literature on this and the studies. There are some current studies out there that we need to review, and I think it's important for us to do our due diligence when it comes to reading the research. And like Dr. Harder said, we want to explore both sides and really understand what the research is telling us about this situation.
In addition to what Dr. Cardula shared, we have other areas that we would have to do more exploration of, impacting on students and their student learning, that length of day and calendar, childcare / student camps, state statutes, our negotiated agreement, the meals and transportation, if we have students in school, at school, not in school, at school doing activities on that 5th day, how do we provide meals? How do we provide transportation? What does that cost? All of those financial considerations. If you're looking at that 5th day and an additional day for classified staff, how much would that cost? As well as our interest of our stakeholders. And we are talking about the stakeholders with children in school, our staff, anyone associated with the school. What is their interest in this?
Additional areas that we thought we needed to explore further would be IEP services, our specialized programs. What would a 4-day school week mean for our students with the most significant needs? What would those opportunities on the 5th day look like? What could they look like? Again, our legislators, how are they perceiving this decision if we were to make that decision? Our community, how are they perceiving it? Our classified staff work agreements. We've said over and over again, this is not something that we are looking at as a cost savings. We kind of had the information from Ryan there as to how this topic came about. So it's not an effort to save money. So we would not want to negatively impact our classified staff work agreements. So we would need to take a look at those and see what changes if we did go to a 4-day, what that would look like. The community impact, I'm sure there's some things that we haven't thought of with regards to that. There's always a ripple effect with every decision. And then the impact on every department in our district. How would this affect the transportation department? How would it affect food service? And how would it affect our business office? So just lots of areas that we feel require further exploration.
So this concludes our brief overview of a very complicated and somewhat controversial topic that other districts have also begun to explore for various reasons, as we indicated. It is important to recognize that what might work for one district may not work for ours. So we are focusing on evidence-based practices to guide our work. I think we have talked about that there is a need for research before, so we would want to take that time. So with that in mind, what questions do you have, and what are the wishes of the board regarding next steps for additional information or potential exploration?
Well, I just wanted to, before I jump in and share my thoughts, can you refresh me? Because you may have said it during the presentation, but I was taking a lot of notes and reading the slides. Are there other districts in Kansas that have done this comparable to our size? And
No, not comparable to our size.
okay, so tends to be
Small.
smaller communities, like with the rural considerations.
And like Mrs. Stanley said, if they're on long bus rides, we split up. We tried to find as much research as we could in that brief amount of time. So Colorado has a number of schools. Missouri has some.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon has some. So it's not something that's nationwide, but it is definitely something that's been popping up. When this first came up, when we first heard about it, we thought, well, what are we talking about, a 4-day school week? And then on the listserv, we started seeing superintendents ask questions about who else is exploring this. I did not put us in there, just so we're clear.
Well, I know that, and you've kind of prefaced this several times when you've come up here with this presentation, that none of you are here picking a side either which way. You're just presenting us some preliminary information because the topic has come up. But, as I think I shared with you privately before, Allison, my immediate response to this is kind of just some concerns. I'm sort of struggling to understand how 4 longer days equates to more academic achievement and learning than 5 days like we've been doing. Part of me kind of wonders how that impacts kids when we set them up for life, because, you don't really have a 4-day work week. We have 5-day work weeks or more worked weeks. And, I have questions about what those kids are doing on that 5th day. How is that being productive so that it's furthering learning and that we're not, providing maybe some childcare or just shelving the kids somewhere. Not saying that that's what we would do, but, just thinking of my initial reaction. I just kind of don't, on my own right now, understand how 4 days equates to more academic improvement than 5 days would. Like, I get that we would make the days longer and there would be kind of some give and take, and that we would eliminate childcare considerations by having stuff happening on the 5th day. I just don't know why to me, I kind of question why we wouldn't use that 5th day for learning
Right,
and
so-
academic achievement.
So some initial research, you might see that you saw academic achievement go up, but then when you start looking at the communities, then it might be a high socioeconomic status. So there's other factors. We would have to really dig into all the factors of a lot of research that was showing the positive effects of that.
Right. And, as we have more discussion about this, because I'm open to anything, I'll research anything. Anyone can present me anything. I'd like to see some more real, some more data, hard data about how the districts that have done this, comparable to us, perhaps in terms of our economy, socioeconomic status, and the different things that would kind of put us on the same parameters with these other districts. I'd just be curious to see how that actually works to create a better academic achievement, because I think, as Judy said, I don't really care about the cost. That's not really a big issue here. It's not necessarily my big concern there. I do have kind of two other concerns, though, which is just the impact of what kids could get up to on that 5th day. Just having worked in legal aid and worked in the child welfare system, I kind of wonder what could happen to some of the kids in our community without really consistent 5-day-a-week structure. Those sort of guardrails of what you're doing with your day, who you're with, and how you're structured. Maybe I'm overthinking that, but just from my life experiences, that's kind of the first thing I think of. And I also question how the legislature would respond to this, because I know, just looking at Independence, Missouri, there was some negative reaction there from their state legislature with legislation introduced to mandate a 5-day school week as opposed to not even allowing it. And part of me wouldn't be surprised if we saw big districts our size or bigger doing something like this, if there wouldn't be some negative political reaction to that that could potentially upend what we've done later. I wouldn't want to be in a position where we go to a 4-day week only for the legislature, maybe not with this governor or another governor, whoever undoes that and just kind of creates a disturbance in the district, which is just, I guess, food for thought. But those are my initial thoughts. I'm kind of curious to hear what the other board members think.
Yes, I know you've all taken lots of notes. So what would you all else like to say?
I'd like to follow up just on what Jeremy was saying, because the interesting thing, and maybe you can clarify this in terms of Independence, it was said they had a 300% increase in applicants, but did they go to an actual 4-day? Because I'm thinking, if they're still expected to work the 5 days, what's the appeal I could see if I only have to work 4 days, then I want to work there instead of here. But if they're still expected to be there for 5 days, what's the big appeal there in terms of applicants?
They are not.
Okay.
Their calendar looks very similar to the calendar that I've seen that passed. Looks very similar to our calendar this year. So essentially, starting about mid-August, getting finished mid-May, 4-day weeks, 1 week a month, it looks like. The teachers would have 5 days. So I don't know how they're meeting state statutes. I don't know what Missouri state statutes are. I don't know what the length of their school day is. I've just seen the calendar.
I'd be very interested just to know more. I know Independence is bigger than we are, but it's somewhere close by. It's at least in the Midwest and just similar region. I had another question, and just something that some parents and some other people that I spoke with ahead of time asked about, is attendance, and this is, we're K through 12. I mean, this is different. And will older kids, and I say this, I've got a senior getting ready to graduate, he's got senioritis, but on that 5th day, if it is used for activities and makeup work, makeup tests, study if you need to, get help if you need it, what if they don't? Is it okay if they just stay home and stay out of trouble? If the parents are okay with it, or are there punitive, does something happen if they have attendance issues on that 5th day? How is that handled?
And so all questions that we need to write down and research.
Okay. So, but I definitely think this is something most of us would want. That needs to definitely be clearer on what the expectations would be on that 5th day for students, but also for workers.
And maybe what we do is that we, rather, because there's been some discussion about that study session, but maybe what we do is that we gather more questions and we bring back another presentation that we address. There's just always going to be more and more questions because I think we're just trying to be very conservative about this, and we know that our student achievement has got to improve. And so we don't want to make a drastic change. We also know that we need to recruit teachers, and we've had feedback that where staff are really excited about 4 days, but then found out that it was really a 5-day work week. That was like, whoop, nope, that's not as exciting as we thought it was. So there's been some mix, and there's also, the purpose of this as well is to make sure that we have very clear communication going out so there are not misconceptions, because it's just kind of spread like wildfire.
I did have some parents ask, I think it was parents, it was parents or employees, that would this, if we did this, would the advisory period, could that be used academically instead, since they would have Friday, hypothetically, to use to do things that are typically done during their advisory? So if that could make up.
Yeah, we can look at all
Yeah.
different types of schedules.
Okay.
And we would want input from, of course, teachers and principals and students as well, what would be beneficial for them.
Right, okay.
I have also some questions. Jen, are you done or are you good for now? Okay, great. So one of my questions was, just the idea of this like longer school day, because, I'm interested in what the research says on like the optimal length of a school day, because I suspect, I've got teenagers. So about 3 o'clock, they're done. They're ready to go do whatever else they want to do. So I just worry that by extending the school day, or is there a learning loss just because it's, kids are just done. Adults are also done. So what does the research say about like the optimal length of a school day to make sure that we're really capturing kids? And then also, I'm glad to see that Independence, Missouri is having a lot of applicants, but I also wonder if that we can even use that as a comparative to us, because if you're in Independence, Missouri, you've got Kansas, educators, you got Missouri educators, you got all of the school districts, you have people that, can move between districts without actually having to move houses. So I think I'd be more interested in what applications look like on a school district our size that's kind of not in a metro area, because I don't think that's can actually be considered a great comparison. Jealous, yes, but I'm not sure if that's a great comparison for us. And then I also just was wondering like how this would work with students who also take courses at ESU, at the Technical College, at the Learning Center, and how, their education might be impacted if we're only 4 days a week, but they still have 5 days school as well.
Absolutely.
And I have a lot of other questions, but I will yield the mic.
And I just want to piggyback off that a little more. I think definitely if they didn't have the advisor, because lengthening the school day, to me, that's a no. I'm 100% what you just said, just even with the littler kids. I just feel like they're so early and it's a long enough day as it is. But if we use that advisory period for academics and didn't have to lengthen it, I would feel better about that. So I think that advisory, that's going to be one of the key components here.
Okay, well, I'll go next. Okay, so I've previously expressed that I'm not really on board for this idea, but I do feel like it's wise to let the research bear that out as well. So I am also concerned that this is ultimately not a retention strategy if the expectation is that students are going to be in and out on the 5th day and teachers will need to be there too. It seems like we might as well just keep it at 5 days, depending on what the plan for the 5th day looks like. I also think that the appeal in Independence right now is that there's not many districts of that size and in our region that are doing the 4-day week. And then I'm worried that eventually everybody is going to catch on that this is a cool retention strategy, and then it's not if everybody's doing it. So I would like to see us explore other retention strategies as well. My concern as well that you pointed out is at what point does a shorter week outweigh a longer year versus a longer day? I was looking online, and Independence has like a really cool FAQ website thing, and their school day looks pretty long. Like some of their students start at 7, 10, some start at like 8:50 and go to 4:35. And that's a pretty lengthy day for any age of students, especially when we consider our older students that leave for activities and things, then they're missing that extended time anyway. And I think if our priority is student achievement, which at least for myself it is, and I think for all of us as well, the research that I've seen so far doesn't bear that there's any real impact on student achievement either way. So I'm wondering what other strategies we could use to improve student achievement.
Yeah, I would agree with what Lillian said. I have done some research and I am a librarian, so I have access to databases that most people don't have access to. The research I've found doesn't increase student achievement, or simply the research isn't there yet. You know, there's not enough large districts our size with our demographics doing this. And I think there's a reason for that. You know, the research I found said school districts have been doing 4-day weeks since the 80s. So this isn't really a new idea. And if that literature there can't bear out that this increases student achievement, then that's probably not something I'm going to be on board with. But we probably need to do the legwork.
I would just ditto mostly what's been said. I've got a lot of concerns with it. I'm way far from ever being convinced right now that it has validity for our district, for all the reasons that's been mentioned. What happens on Friday, the student achievement, and all those kinds of things. I think it's fine to look at it, but I just right now I don't necessarily see where it might be workable for Emporia, but we're open to look at it. So.
Well, if there really isn't the passion to look at it, I mean, it took us many hours just to put this short presentation. So we want to put our hours where it's going to best address student achievement because that is our priority. So we're happy to look at it. We are happy to take time. What would you like for
Well,
us to do?
I'm really glad we discussed this evening because if people are asking about it and we had, I don't know, 35 people, 32 people total. It doesn't seem like that many, but when you consider how many people probably actually responded to the survey, that was probably a pretty good number. And we do want to be seen as taking retention and recruitment seriously. So having the discussion tonight, I feel, was very important. But I don't feel like it's that. I mean, we certainly, I know some people thought we were like considering this for next school year. No, definitely not. And I don't even think the 24-25 really would even be a good time. I want to flesh out how semesters work, and we've been getting these great reports from all of our schools on the improvement plans and how they're doing, and I would hate to throw another wrench in the works for them to try to figure that out. If we're coming off of COVID and doing so much recovery there and just trying everything we can to increase academic improvement here with what we have. So I don't need to see anything further at this point. But, you know, if it's something we want to consider down the road, we've got it in our back pocket. We've talked about it. You've started the research. I'm sure your heads are spinning. Art's got that cool database. I mean, we have options. We have teacher input from Lillian, which I really appreciate, and Jen. So I don't need to see more, but that's not my decision.
I would agree. I think your guys' time is precious and should be used in ways that's very productive. And as much as I would like to see some comprehensive data about the academic achievement, I'm kind of like Grant over here. I think it's going to be a tough ship to sail me on. So I am okay with letting this topic lay. And so our staff can focus on other things. But I want buy-in from everyone so that we're not undercutting anything.
Yeah, and another point is we just adopted a new math curriculum. We're looking at a new ELA curriculum, and I think that 5-day week will benefit our staff and our students with that transition. So the timing just seems not right for us.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Good job. Okay, item 8A, construction update from McCown Gordon. Thanks for waiting.
Eric Holsey was really hoping to sit through that entire presentation, and we also have Mike Hatrip.
Yes, thank you for having me. First off, it's going to be hard to follow the village presentation, so that one, yeah, no, I didn't. That one tugs at your heartstrings, and it's a good reminder of why we all do what we do, right? So it's good to see that, and I appreciate being able to attend these meetings and see the kids and the hard work they're going into, and that the construction at the end of the day is benefiting everybody. So we'll start this off. We've got some good news to share all around. So I know you've had kind of a long evening, so I'll try to be quick, but touch base on the middle school here. So almost 50% complete. Just a couple pictures. The left one is the new gymnasium / storm shelter. So that's actually just the slab on grade that was freshly placed a couple weeks ago. And then on the right is the same gymnasium / storm shelter. It's just the roof finishing up the roof there. So some other things that are currently going at the middle school right now as well are painting has started in the new science wing. And ceilings are following behind. In March, cabinets, casework, millwork starts to show up. So we'll begin installation in the science wing, and then we'll store some the rest of the casework there while the other areas finish up. The EFIS, so the exterior finish insulation system, has started on the north, and that'll flow from north to south. That is kind of our whole flow at the middle school, is everything. We started on the north, and we're just slowly moving south. The new admin area drywall finishing is actually ongoing, and then drywall hanging in the new commons area F is ongoing, should be pretty close by the end of the week. And then once the drywall finishing is done in the admin area, they will move right over into the commons area. In the gymnasium, so the hangers for all the ductwork, roof drains, gym equipment, those are being installed right now, because next week the contractor that is doing the spray acoustical installation in there is coming in and is essentially going to turn that those double T's that you see there. They'll pack about 2 to 4 inches of a acoustical insulation on them to help with that noise in that area. So a lot of exciting things happened at the middle school. And the last thing I wanted to bring up was, if you remember back last summer, we placed the 6 to 8 inches of concrete in the cafetorium of the existing school. So over spring break, the plan is we are going to stain and polish that. So that'll be all nice and neat when the kids come back from spring break. So any questions as it pertains to the middle school? Okay. So Village, couple pictures here. This is actually of the new admin area, the renovation kind of area. You can see the drywall stacked there. And the framing is pretty well done. On the right-hand side, some new windows being cut into that old media center wall there on the south. So bring some natural daylight into those offices, which will be nice. We actually, Rob, could you go to the next slide? So this is the picture on the left. That is the new multi-purpose / storm shelter. So it is nearing completion. The plan is we'll do a punch list on February 22nd. And then the goal is to hand that over to Village students the week of spring break. So when they come back, hopefully over spring break, they'll be able to start using their new multi-purpose room. So it's exciting there. And then on the right side, just kind of, it's not real glamorous. There's a roof ladder going in, but it was more to show the EFIS, the finish on the outside in the brick all coming together there. So we've got a fire marshal walk tomorrow, so he'll go do his final walkthrough in the multi-purpose room, and then he'll also do his 50% walk in the new admin area and new workroom area. Finishing scheduled to actually start in the workroom area next week. So the drywall is almost hung out. It'll be done by the end of the week, and then they will move over into the admin area and begin hanging drywall there. So once the finishing of the drywall is done in the workrooms, they'll move over into the new admin area, which is the old media center. And then site work, we should start here in the next week or so, weather pending. So we'll begin working on sidewalks for around that multi-purpose room. And then we've got to move our construction trailer out of the way, and then we'll start working through that parking lot there as well. So any questions relating to Village? Okay, in Riverside and Timmerman, we will talk about at the next presentation. William Allen White, we started some conversations at the last Build for Future Executive Committee meeting last Wednesday. So we've got some direction from the committee, and HCK is going to work on some kind of conceptual plans, and then they're going to work on scheduling some programming meetings with the staff at the staff at William Allen White and Dr. Harder and Mr. Shives. So more to come on William Allen White and as that progresses. So, any questions as far as construction goes?
Anything from BFEC that you want to add? No? Okay, thank you.
All right.
Next one.
Yeah. So
Riverside. And
Yep.
I don't know if I have to announce it.
Yeah.
Riverside and Timmerman Elementary Schools guaranteed maximum price.
Yes. So if you remember back in September, we brought to you all a couple different options and asked for direction on which way to proceed so that HCK could go finish design, we could get 100% construction drawings and bid out. So consensus amongst the board was, hey, let's look at adding 2 new classrooms on the wings at both schools, and then let's look at renovating 2 classrooms for IS and LS classrooms. So that's what we did. So as you can see from the photo here, the floor plans kind of overall is essentially the exact same scope, a little bit different in the life skills and intensive skills classrooms at the school. So at Timmerman, you can see it's the 2, I guess, further away classrooms, and then at Riverside, it's closer to the end of, I get my directions mixed up, so I don't want to butcher that anymore, but yeah, that direction. So, but the new additions are the same scope. It is meant to mirror the current classroom setup that is there. So you'll have the casework and a sink in those 2 new classroom additions. So. Bidder summary. So we received at the end of 2022, we received 100% construction documents from HGK Architects. We grabbed those and we actually put those on the street after the first of the year, just because from experience, what we've seen is as you get to the end of the year with the holidays, everybody kind of shuts down a little bit, takes a little bit of a breath, and then ramps back up after the first year. So we put them on the streets January 2nd, and we had bid day on the 20th of January. And then last Wednesday, we presented to the Build for Future Executive Committee. So where things kind of shook out, and I just want to make you aware that these dollars are combined. So we took both Riverside and Timmerman and combined them just to make it easier. We've got breakouts that we can go through if there are questions that we need to get. But for this presentation, it was just easier to combine everything. So for construction costs for both the schools, it came in at $3,829,006. Other project costs, so design fees, furniture, materials testing, IT equipment, that cost that's being carried in the master budget, $649,898. So total project cost, all ins, $4,478,904. So the last budget update that we did in September, we were setting it $4,422,989. So really what you're seeing there is we're over from the last update, 1.2%. And really what that is it was decided that, hey, we want some visitor parking up at Riverside. Because Timmerman currently has it, works really well. Riverside needs that. And so that is what that overage was. Originally, we had that pinned as kind of an alternate that it was designed. Let's bid it. Let's see where it comes in at. And the committee last week decided, hey, let's make these schools equal and make sure everyone has parking and it's easy to access for visitors to come and go. So that's really what that overage is there. So overall bond status, I won't read all these numbers, but I'll kind of show it up there how we did it. So the initial bond is set up there. Also took into account the initial, the grant from the Jones Trust for the Jones Early Childhood Education Center. Combining all those, the current projects bid / started or complete from Walnut to Jones to the high school to Logan Village, the middle school, and then this includes Riverside and Timmerman. So that's 93% of the master budget all combined. So from when you first started back, this journey started back in 2018. Ultimately, the bond passed in 2019. That's kind of where we're at. We're 93% done. We're almost to the finish line. Current owner contingency, and this again includes Riverside and Timmerman, sitting at roughly just over 900,000. So roughly 37% used to date, sitting in a very good spot. You know, we're 93%, and that's outstanding. You know, usually if by the time you're 50% through, if you spent 50%, that's pretty good. But you're in a really good spot here. So, you know, that's used for unknowns that come up, whether it be hazardous materials that we've talked about on the past schools, unsuitable soils, rock excavation, things like that. Current estimated master budget savings is roughly a savings of $608,000. So that includes savings from testing that wasn't needed. You know, those testing agencies, they put a rough number to it, and it's kind of on a time and material basis. So they bill you based on their time and any materials they use. Furniture savings, your furniture, I think for the entire bond, and Mr. Scheib can correct me if I'm wrong, but has come in really well. I think almost every school has been under budget. So those are what those savings take into account. So the over bond is currently setting at roughly $130,729 over budget. Don't freak out, right? Because of what we just went through. So there's still $900,000 in owner contingency that you haven't used. I don't foresee you spending $900,000. Yes, knock on wood. The reason I say that is the middle school is going really well. Village, you know, we've started to get into some of the remodel spaces. We haven't opened them all up, but for the most part, it's gone really well. Riverside and Timmerman, both those schools are a lot newer compared to the previous ones we've been in, and things are going well. So, you know, at the end of the day, some of those funds you could transfer some of those funds to offset that overage, and you'd be at a zero balance, basically setting very well. The other thing to take into account too is you haven't dipped into any bond interest, so that's still sitting there for kind of that rainy day fund as well. So, yeah, any questions as it relates to that? All those numbers up there. I know it's always a lot of information in a very short time.
So if we're asked from somebody looking at William Ellen White, is there adequate money available to do what we project to do there?
So I know that scope is up for discussion. I'm going to look to Dr. Harder or Mr. Scheib if they want to elaborate any more on that question. I know right now we're currently looking at a new multi-purpose / storm shelter, new media center, new kitchen, office renovation, an update to where the current media center is and turning that back into a classroom. Looking at the band room and kind of trying to match what we did over at Logan. We're also trying to walk that fine line of where the fire marshal gets really engaged, and you know, we don't want him to take a left turn, and we don't want to have to do what we did at Walnut. So we're trying to understand that, and those are some of the plans that HGK is actually working on, Grant, on where is that 50% threshold? How many classrooms can we potentially touch without getting into that?
The thing we have to be careful about, and it was the same thing that we had to be careful about with Village, we were going to replace a lot of the kitchen or the cabinetry in the Village classrooms. But what we learned from Walnut was when we go over touching 50% of the rooms, even if it's just going in and putting in carpet and changing out the cabinets, you're still touching the space. And you get over 50%, then you have to bring the whole building up like we did at Walnut. So William Allen White will be very similar to Village. We won't be touching every room in the building like we did it, but we didn't touch every room at Walnut either. There were 4 or 5 rooms we didn't touch at all, but we still had to bring the whole building up to fire code. So all of the important structural things will be addressed when we get to the Walnut or to the William Allen White piece. The high wind shelters, the office space, the band or the music room, all of those, the kitchen. It's the smallest kitchen in the whole district. Well, Village might be even smaller, but it's going to be big now too. So that core stuff that we were looking at, minus all the cabinets and the carpet in every classroom, will be addressed.
So does that include, like, if we wanted to paint a cabinet that is touching? Or like, so if you don't tear the cabinets off the walls, but you replace the doors, is that?
It depends which fire marshal you get and
okay.
which day of the week.
Okay.
But in theory, yes, they would look, if you go and change out the door to the classroom, they would look at, you are touching the space.
Okay. So do we have, then will we get kind of a plan on not touching more than 50%? And then also, yes, touching 50%, and how much more that would cost? Sorry. Well, you know, like,
I'm having flashbacks.
I know, I know. What a
$250,000
yeah.
surprise.
Right.
So, yeah, but we're being very careful. And so
Yes.
McCown-Gordon has gone in and they did some samples.
Yep, so we
during winter
did
break.
a hazardous building materials sample over winter break, and we got those results, and there are asbestos, just very similar to Walnut and Village of what we found in a building that age.
I would say, being on BFAC, that my goal is to do what we promised the community we were going to do in that building, and with the caveat that we're trying to avoid doing work that's going to significantly increase the cost and make us go out of our budget. So again, like Rob said, those core major things, they're still on the table, and that's, in my mind, that's what we plan to do. And we want to keep it as equitable as possible for all of our schools. So that's something that we're always keeping in the forefront.
Okay. So should you choose to approve Riverside and Timmerman tonight, that would release some longer lead time materials that we've been tracking here recently of casework and millwork, mechanical equipment, and electrical equipment. Would also, the plan pending procurement lead times, once we're able to release trade partners, would be a May start. So once school's out, we would start, the big push would be the 2 classroom renovations at each school, to start those at the beginning of summer and have them handed over by the end of summer so that they could be used for this next, I guess it'd be fall semester. And then looking at finishing and turning everything over January of 20, should be January of 2024. Sorry about that. Caught myself off guard there too. So yes, I apologize for that mistake. It should be January of 2024. So, well, it's all right. I've looked at it a couple different times. So
I looked at that on Friday and thought, that seems like a long time, but
yeah, no.
what do
that
I
is-
know?
that's-
I don't
that's-
build things.
Yeah, no, that's why I kind of tilted my head to the side and that didn't look right. So,
All right. Does anyone have any other questions this evening? Because this is an action item and the recommended motions are on slide 8 there.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. Madam President, I move to give final approval to accept the guaranteed maximum price for Riverside and Timmerman Elementary Schools from McGowan-Gordon Construction for $3,829,006. It is also recommended that the Build for the Future Executive Committee, BFEC, to choose alternate and unit prices up to the maximum master budget value of $4,478,904.
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you
being
all.
here tonight and
You bet.
waiting.
Have a
Yes,
good
thank
rest.
you.
Eric, Eric, I hope you get like at least 10 more 60-degree days.
Yeah.
You and me both.
Every time I drive by the middle school, I'm like, yes.
Yes.
I know. One of the meteorologists I follow on social media says it's not, that we're good. We're good for a while. So you can believe
Thank
him,
you.
right? Thank you. Okay, item 8C, consider approval of the negotiated agreement and tentative agreement for licensed professional staff for 2022-2023.
All right, Mr. Rob Scheim, Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations, sharing information on our negotiations.
Okay, thank you. We started last spring of 2022. A lot of the items that are in the tentative agreement were agreed at the start of school in the MOU form or agreed later so that when we started with the insurance rollover, we had the new insurance benefit rates starting on December 15th payrolls. So the teachers have voted on the package. We did have enough votes to for the teachers to pass the package, and the package is outlined in the text, however much you want me to go with it.
So I think we've all had a chance to review. We've been working on this for a while. Does anyone have any questions about this?
We'll start negotiating for next year pretty quickly.
Yep, coming right up.
I would move that we approve the negotiated agreement and tentative agreement for certified staff for 2022, 2023 as submitted.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. And thanks to everyone who worked on making that happen. Item 9A, future board calendar dates. Our next meeting is Wednesday, February 22nd at 6:30 here at Mary Herbert Education Center. We have our one meeting for March on March 8th, and then we'll meet again in April on April 12th, also here at 6:30 at Mary Herbert Education Center. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.